So the last thing we want to add with our vertebrate evolution is our last derived character on this tree, and that is milk. So the addition of mammary glands separates reptiles and birds from mammals. So this addition of mammary glands is critical for the protection and the supply of nutrients to a new developing offspring. We do see that mammals are endothermic, so we've got some characteristics here of our mammals. Endothermic, most of them are going to have hair, and most will actually have eggs that develop internally. Okay, so that's going to be different. They're still basically an amniotic-like egg, but this egg is going to develop internally instead of being laid like we saw with our amphibians and reptiles and birds. So with this addition of these very distinct and very highly derived characteristics, mammals have a much more efficient respiratory and circulatory system. We have to add more energy supplies, and those energy supplies, of course, are driven by the availability of oxygen to make ATP and the ability of our circulatory system to move oxygen around our body. The other thing we add are teeth of various kinds, and many of them are differentiated based on diet. So depending on what type of mammal you are, you're going to have different kinds of teeth. We look at the first true mammals about 200 million years ago, probably very, very small, and were insectivores, meaning they ate bugs, right? Now we look at three categories of mammals: the monotremes, the marsupials, and the mammals. Monotremes are egg-laying mammals, so our platypus, and the spiny anteater. Many of you may not know there are actually two mammal egg layers. Marsupials, where we actually get the egg to develop inside mom, but in a slightly different way than we look at with the development of the egg in a human mammal per se. So the egg actually hatches or splits open within mom, allowing this embryo to escape that egg very early on, and then the embryo, of course, crawls out and develops in this pouch on the outside of mom. And the joey, or the baby kangaroo, will spend a long time in that pouch, being protected by mom. So what's the purpose of being egg-laying? This is a weird kind of concept that we'll talk more about, but the idea of being an egg layer means that you're going to essentially move mom away from baby. Mom and baby are separated, right? Well, think about the types of environments that these organisms live in. Our platypus or our spiny anteater. What advantage does this give? Being able to lay an egg rather than carrying an embryo around until it's ready to be born. Marsupials have taken this and modified it, right? So they still hatch out essentially this embryo, but internally, and then the embryo grows up within a pouch of the parent. So this is a very different kind of development. And we have to think, is this still risky for mom? Is this kind of development more or less risky for mom, and why? Within our mammals, we actually have our third type of placental mammal, right? So in this case, the normal mammal process that you think of, where mom gives birth to essentially a mini adult form of the species, right? But what I want you to think here, the placental mammals are on the left, the marsupials are on the right. So the marsupials are the pouch animals, right? And these are live birth at the stage that they look like miniature adults. So where do you think we find most of these marsupials? Does this give you a clue? Tasmania. You may know that most of these are actually found in Australia. Do you know the one marsupial we have in North America? It's actually the possum.